March 12, 1943, 9:46 a.m. A captured American reconnaissance jeep sits in the courtyard of Wehrmacht Maintenance Depot 7, just outside Krasnodar. Its olive-drab metal still dusted with the frost of a Russian dawn. A dozen German mechanics gather around it in a loose half-circle. Cigarette smoke hangs low. Breath fogs the air. Somewhere behind them, a distant artillery thump rolls across the steppe. But no one turns to look. Every pair of eyes is fixed on this strange little machine, small, almost toy-like compared to the hulking Opel Blitz trucks they're used to repairing. Feldwebel Kurt Malke, the senior mechanic, steps forward. His gloves creak as he grips the hood latch. For a second, he hesitates, not out of fear, but out of curiosity. The Americans build fast, simple vehicles, or so the propaganda says. Machines rushed by arrogant industry. Machines inferior to German craftsmanship. He flicks the latch. The hood snaps open. Silence falls. The men lean forward, not speaking, not even blinking. Inside, the engine bay looks wrong. Not sloppy, not crude. Just different. Everything is reachable. Every line is clean. Every cable makes sense. No unnecessary brackets. No over-engineered assemblies. No maze of fitting, designed to impress inspectors rather than help soldiers survive. You can almost feel the air shift as the Germans study the layout of flathead four-cylinder engines. Simple, it's nearly elegant, sturdy enough to run on fuel. So poor it would choke a German Kübelwagen. A fan belt that can be replaced in seconds. An air filter that can be serviced blindfolded. Even the spark plugs sit exposed and ready, like they want to be touched. Malke murmurs, barely above a whisper, es ist gebaut für Krieg. It's built for war. Across the courtyard, a young mechanic named Walter Henke steps closer, his boots crunching in the frost. He's 21, sharp-minded, usually quick with jokes. But now his face tightens. His gloved fingers hover over the carburetor, tracing its lines without touching. This thing, he says quietly, a soldier could fix it in the dark. A few of the older mechanics exchange looks. That's not how German vehicles are built. German machines demand precision-trained hands, specialized tools, carefully measured parts. They are masterpieces on paper and divas in the field. But this American Jeep, it doesn't want a mechanic. It wants a user. Outside the depot gates, a column of retreating German infantry trudges past on the road, their boots slipping in the thawing mud. Exhausted, hollow-eyed, carrying rifles older than they are, they glance at the courtyard without understanding what's happening inside it, without knowing. This moment, this quiet lifting of a hood, will reveal something far larger than an engine. Malke gestures to his men. Strip it. Every bolt. Every panel. I want to know why it runs. They set to work. Bolts spin off effortlessly. Panels lift, like they were designed with the mechanic in mind. And as each layer comes away, the truth becomes harder to ignore. This isn't simply a vehicle. It's a machine designed so that anyone, a farm boy from Kansas, a factory worker from Detroit, a kid fresh out of high school, could keep it moving under fire, in rain, in mud, in snow. No manuals, no officers yelling, no training schools, just instinct, just simplicity, just motion. And in war, motion is life. One of the Germans suddenly freezes. He's holding the transmission housing, staring at its markings. Sir, this was cast in Ohio last year. A ripple of unease moves through the group. Last year. Not stockpiled. Not scarce. Not precious. Mass-produced, replaceable, disposable. Malke steps back, suddenly aware of the enormity of what they're touching. He glances over at a Kübelwagen on the far side of the yard, its transmission in pieces, its carburetor, delicate as clockwork, its parts scattered like the guts of a mechanical cathedral. And for the first time, an uncomfortable thought forms. If the Americans can build machines like this, by the hundreds of thousands, rugged, unstoppable, then the war isn't just about who fights harder. It's about who can keep moving longest. The wind picks up, scattering snow across the open engine bay. The Jeep seems to grin back at them, small, tough, unpretentious. A battlefield companion, not a museum artifact. Malke wipes frost from the fender and mutters, no wonder they cross continents. He doesn't know the number yet. He doesn't know that 640,000 Jeeps will roll across Europe, Africa, and the Pacific, hauling wounded men, carrying ammunition, towing guns, racing ahead of infantry, becoming the legs of an entire army. But he's beginning to understand something else, something unsettling enough to make his voice drop to a hushed, almost reverent tone. Gentlemen, we have underestimated the enemy. Behind him, Henke pauses with a wrench in his hand, his eyes narrowing as he uncovers the next component. What he's about to find will unsettle them even more. Henke lifts the next panel with a slow, deliberate motion, as if peeling back the skin of some strange creature. Beneath it lies the transfer case, compact, sturdy, shockingly plain. No delicate machining, no ornate fittings, none of the elegant but fragile hallmarks of German engineering. Just steel, just function, just purpose. He runs his thumb along the casing. No polishing, no refinements, no wasted curves. "Sir," he says, swallowing. "There's nothing extra. Everything is the minimum needed." Malke steps beside him. Together they crouch, studying the undercarriage. The other mechanics gather in a tight ring, the cold forgotten. Their breath fogs the space like steam rising from a forge, and then it becomes unmistakable. This Jeep wasn't built to last forever. It was built to last long enough. Long enough to cross a desert, long enough to take a hill, long enough to win a war. You can almost feel the shift in their minds, the uncomfortable realization that German engineering, revered and precise, might be the wrong kind of brilliance for a global war fought across continents. Henke finally voices it, "Sir, this wasn't built by craftsmen." He looks up, his expression conflicted and pale. "This was built by production lines." The word hangs there. Production lines. Factories measured not in hundreds of workers, but in thousands. Facilities where machines stamp out engines like loaves of bread, where steel rolls on conveyor belts, where American workers can build what Germany can only dream of maintaining. A gust of wind rattles a corrugated metal wall. Somewhere, a generator sputters, but the mechanics barely hear it. Their world has shrunk to this single, squat vehicle, the symbol of an enemy they thought they understood. They move around the Jeep like archaeologists at a dig site, discovering one unsettling truth after another. Brakes accessible without removing wheels. Fuel lines routed so simply a child could memorize them. No armored plates that add weight but don't add value. No overdesigned parts meant to impress officers. Just utility, a soldier's tool. War distilled into machinery. Malke rises slowly, wiping grease from his gloves. "This is why they advance so fast," he murmurs. "Not because their men are better. Not because their tactics are superior." He taps the frame of the Jeep with two knuckles. A dull, confident sound. "It's because every man in their army can keep his machine alive." Behind him, one of the junior mechanics, Fritz, barely 18, speaks without meaning to. "If this broke down in the field," he says, "even I could fix it." The others glance at each other. He's right, and that frightens them more than they expected. Across the depot, another captured Jeep sits waiting, its tires caked with the mud of a battlefield only hours old. A bullet scar marks its hood. Another has pierced the side of the body, yet the engine starts on the first try, coughing out a confident roar. The sound echoes off the depot walls. It feels like a challenge, a reminder. A message: we break, we repair. We move, try to stop us. Malke turns toward the sound, troubled. "You hear that?" he mutters. "This thing doesn't care about mud, snow, dust. It's as if the Americans expect their vehicles to suffer." He doesn't mean it as an insult. He means it as a dark admiration. German machines dislike abuse. American machines expect it. One of the older mechanics, Ernst Beckmann, traces the frame with a trembling hand. "Sir, the leaf springs. Look at the thickness. It can hit a ditch at full speed and keep going." "Full speed?" Fritz asks. Beckmann nods grimly. "At speeds that would crack a Kübelwagen in half." They stand over the Jeep in silence. This small, unremarkable machine, something dismissed as crude by propaganda, has just revealed a truth none of them can ignore. The Americans don't fight the same war. The Americans don't build the same tools. The Americans don't think in terms of scarcity. They think in terms of scale. Henke exhales slowly. "If this is the quality of the smallest thing they send to war," he says, "then what else are we fighting?" Before Malke can answer, another mechanic calls out from behind the Jeep. "Sir, you need to see this." Now, his voice wavers not with fear, but with disbelief. Something behind the rear panel has caught their attention. Something that shouldn't be possible for a vehicle assembled so quickly, built so cheaply, sent so far from home. Malke steps forward, feeling an unease he hasn't felt since the first winter of the Eastern Front. "What is it?" he asks. The mechanic points into the open compartment. "Sir, this design choice, this single part, it explains everything. Everything." Malke leans in. His eyes widen. His breath catches. And for the first time, the truth hits him like a rifle butt to the chest. They didn't just build a Jeep. They built an army that never stops moving. What he saw stunned him enough to make him step back. What was it? Malke doesn't answer at first, he just stares. The other mechanics lean in. their bodies casting long shadows in the pale morning light. Frost crackles under their boots. The tension is so thick it feels like the entire depot is holding its breath. Inside the rear compartment, tucked behind the spare tools, just above the axle housing, is a small, almost unimpressive detail, a removable, standardized, interchangeable modular assembly. To most eyes, it looks like nothing. A bracket, a coupling, a simple mounting system. But to Mahlke, and to every German mechanic who knows the pain of maintaining an army stretched across half of Europe, it means something very different. Interchangeability, not theoretical, not partial, not similar enough if you file it down. Perfect interchangeability. A part from one factory will match a part from another. A transmission built in Willys will fit in a frame built by Ford. A component cast in Toledo will bolt into a chassis assembled in Dearborn. No special fitting, no adjustments, no headaches. It is the single thing German industry could never fully achieve. Not in tanks. Not in trucks. Not even in rifles. Mahlke steps back, the realization landing with the weight of artillery. My God, he whispers, every Jeep is the same. Henke doesn't understand at first. Sir? We also standardize. No, Mahlke snaps, turning sharply. We say we standardize. But every Kübelwagen, every Opel, every lorry needs hand-fitting. Adjustments. Modifications. He gestures at the American Jeep. This does not. The courtyard falls into stunned silence. They all know what that means. A broken-down German vehicle becomes a deadweight needing replacement. Parts from specific factories, requiring trained mechanics to adjust, align, tune. A broken-down American Jeep. A nearby unit hands you a part, or cannibalize one in minutes, or grab a matching piece from a supply dump stacked to the rafters with spares, and every single one of them fits. Henke. His voice, quiet and awed, says, "So they can fix anything anywhere." Mahlke nods slowly, and faster than we can break it. A distant artillery rumble echoes across the horizon. The front is shifting again. The Soviets pressing, the Wehrmacht retreating, the world tightening around them. Beckmann lets his hand fall to his side. "I didn't think it was possible," he murmurs, "to mass-produce this many machines with such precision. How many factories do they have?" The number will eventually be known. Dozens, scores. Enough to outproduce every Axis nation combined. But in this moment, staring at a bracket that fits with mathematical perfection, none of them know the exact figure. They don't need to. They feel it. A small detail, small enough to hold in a palm, suddenly becomes the weight of two continents pressing down on them. Mahlke suddenly turns toward the junior mechanics. "Get me the other captured Jeep. Bring it beside this one." Two men sprint across the yard, boots slipping in the slush. They drag the second Jeep forward, positioning it next to the first. The vehicles sit side by side, two twins from across an ocean. "Remove the assembly," Mahlke orders. Wrenches twist, bolts fall. The part comes free. "Now, switch them." It takes less than 20 seconds. Click, fit, perfect. No filing, no redrilling, no muttered curses, just perfection. The mechanics stare in disbelief. One of them, Fritz, breaks the silence. "Sir, if their smallest vehicle is this standardized, then what about their tanks?" No one answers, because the thought is terrifying. Mahlke rises, rubbing his temples. This is why they move so fast, why they don't stop, why they don't fall behind, why their columns stretch for miles. His voice grows hollow, because they don't repair vehicles, they replace them, immediately, effortlessly. Henke swallows hard. "Sir, is this how they conquered Africa? And Europe, and are pushing in the Pacific?" Mahlke sighs, not a tired sigh, a defeated one. "This is how," he says. "This is exactly how." He looks at the two Jeeps, side by side. Two symbols of an industrial giant Germany can no longer outrun. They can build 640,000 of these, he says quietly, and every one exactly like the last. A beat of silence, then another. The realization stings like cold metal. But the shock isn't over, because as the mechanics stand frozen in place, another detail emerges, one none of them noticed yet. Something hanging beneath the Jeep's frame. Something that doesn't belong. Something so daring, so practically brilliant, that it makes even Mahlke blink. A detail that reveals exactly why American forces can move faster than any army in history. And when they see it, their breath will leave them. It's Henke who spots it first. He's crouched under the Jeep, brushing away a smear of frozen mud, when his gloved fingers hit something metal, but not where any German mechanic expects to find a functional component. "Sir, you should come down here." There's something in his voice, tight, uncertain, almost disbelieving, that makes the others kneel beside him without hesitation. A half-dozen German mechanics flatten themselves on the cold ground, lining up shoulder to shoulder beneath the captured American jeep. Frost bites through their uniforms. Breath fogs the space between steel and earth. And then they see it. A long metal cylinder, strapped, secured, intentionally placed. Not armor. Not a weapon. Not a mechanical part. A spare propeller shaft, mounted under the vehicle, like a soldier carrying his own replacement leg. No German vehicle has anything like it. No German designer would even consider it. Malke's eyes widen as he slowly reaches out and touches the cold metal. "A spare drive shaft," he says. The words come out strangled. They carry their own spare drive shaft, silence. The weight of the moment is crushing. A drive shaft is not a trivial component. It is not a belt, or a hose, or a fuse. It is the heart of the drivetrain. When it breaks, the vehicle stops, completely. German doctrine is clear. If a drive shaft fails, the vehicle is immobilized. Until a support unit arrives, assuming it can arrive at all, it may take hours, days, sometimes weeks, sometimes never. But an American Jeep, it simply reaches under its belly, unstraps a new one, bolts it on, and keeps moving. Fritz whispers, barely audible with this, "You can keep going even after serious damage." Malke nods slowly, numbly. "Yes. This is why they cross deserts faster than we can march. This is why they climb mountains and never stop. This is why they can advance 100 kilometers in a day." Beckman shakes his head, almost laughing in disbelief. They brought the solution to their own breakdown before it even happened. The realization sinks in like a knife sliding between ribs. American vehicles are designed to fail and recover without stopping. And as the Germans study the mounting brackets, the straps, the placement, the tool access point, the dreadful genius becomes clearer. The spare drive shaft isn't thrown in the back randomly. It's mounted in a place where a soldier under fire could replace it in minutes. Because the Americans assume something German engineers never dared to assume: the enemy will shoot at the vehicle, and the vehicle must survive anyway. Henke stares upward at the undercarriage, voice hollow. "They planned for chaos." Malke replies, "They engineered for war, not for perfection." Above them, the courtyard looks still, quiet, deceptively peaceful. But beneath the jeep, the truth is roaring like an engine. This vehicle was never meant to be cared for by experts. It was meant to be kept alive by exhausted, frightened, half-trained soldiers in the middle of gunfire. The Americans didn't just manufacture machines. They manufactured resilience. One of the older mechanics forces himself to speak. "Sir, not even our tanks carry spares this critical." And that, Malke mutters, is exact the problem. He crawls out from under the jeep and stands. The others scramble up beside him. They look at the vehicle with new eyes, now no longer as enemy equipment, but as a terrifying declaration of intent. A machine designed by a nation that understands one truth: momentum wins wars. And momentum comes from machines that never stop. Henke steps forward, resting a hand on the jeep's fender. "It's not just engineering," he says. "It is philosophy." Malke nods, "And that philosophy is defeating us." Before he can say more, a distant engine growl echoes through the depot gates. A German motorcycle messenger skids into the yard, boots sliding as he dismounts. His face is pale, his voice frantic. "Feldwebel Malke. Urgent orders, the front is collapsing. Soviet armor breakthrough to the north. We're evacuating immediately." The mechanics exchange looks. They know what this means. In minutes they'll have to leave. Trucks, tools, equipment. Even the second captured jeep. But the first one, the one they've stripped and studied, Malke refuses to leave behind. Not now, not after what they've learned. He turns to his men. "We take this," he says. "Every piece, even if we carry it on our backs." Henke points at the horizon, where distant smoke is rising. "But why, sir? What does it matter?" Malke looks at the jeep one last time. "Because," he says softly, "if the High Command does to understand what this vehicle means, we are already defeated." He turns toward the depot entrance, as the engines of evacuation trucks roar to life. But before they leave, the youngest mechanic, the quiet one, Fritz, asks a question that stopped them cold. "Sir, if this is what their smallest machine looks like," he hesitates, "then what do their big machines look like?" Malke doesn't answer, because he knows the truth. And the truth is far worse. The convoy forms in the depot yard, Opel trucks grumbling to life. Exhaust plumes drifting over crates of tools and half-disassembled equipment. The sky has turned a dull iron grey, the kind that promises either snow or artillery. Feldwebel Malke stands by the stripped jeep, his gloves resting on its cold fender. The other mechanics watch him closely. None of them rush him. None of them push him. They all feel it. This isn't about salvage anymore. It's about understanding the truth before it crushes them completely. Fritz's question lingers in the air like smoke. If this is their smallest machine, then what do their big machines look like? The words settle like ice. Malke doesn't look up at first. He simply exhales, slow and heavy, as if the breath itself carries years of denial. When he finally speaks, his voice is low. You want to know what their big machines look like? He gestures to the jeep. It starts here, with this philosophy. He taps the frame 3 dull, resonant knocks. Multiply this by 10, you get their trucks. Multiply again, you get their half-tracks. Multiply again, he pauses, you get their tanks. Henke, tightening straps on a crate, stops mid-nut. But sir, American tanks? We rarely see them here. Most are fighting in Africa. Yes, Malke cuts in. But soon they'll be everywhere. He steps away from the jeep, pacing slowly, his boots crunching in the crusted snow. Think about what we've seen today, he says. Standardization, interchangeability, redundancy, simplicity. He lifts a finger with each word, like an instructor dictating gospel. These aren't just engineering choices, they're strategy. The mechanics exchange tense looks. Malke continues, a Sherman tank can have its engine replaced in the field, a gearbox replaced in a barn, a whole track repaired by men with barely 2 weeks training. He looks at them, one by one. How long would it take us to replace the engine of a Panzer IV? Henke answers quietly. Days, if we had the right team, and the right crane, and the right tools. Exactly, Malke says. And what happens if we don't? The silence tells the story. German tank that breaks down becomes a monument to defeat left behind, scorched, abandoned, blown up by its own crew. An American tank that breaks down becomes a delay, a repair job, a hiccup. Because the Americans don't just build machines, they build the ability to repair machines faster than Germany can destroy them. Beckman runs a hand across his face, exhausted. Then we're not fighting soldiers, he mutters, we're fighting factories. Malke nods grimly. And the factories are winning. A distant boom rolls across the horizon. Soviet artillery. Closer now. Trucks rumble. Engines rev. The depot is turning chaotic as units scramble to evacuate. But Malke isn't finished. He gestures toward the piles of stripped jeep parts lying on canvas sheets. Load these, he orders. The Wehrmacht must see this. The engineers must see this. Henke hesitates. Sir, High Command won't listen. They'll say German engineering is superior. They'll say our designs are the best in the world. Malke stares hard at him. That's exactly why we're losing. Another artillery strike lands closer, dust shaking loose from the depot walls. Time is running out. The mechanics work quickly now, gathering the evidence, the standardized bracket, the interchangeable module, the rugged leaf springs, the simple carburetor, the spare drive shaft, every piece a note in a grim symphony of industrial reality. But as they finish loading the crates onto the trucks, Fritz Young, sharp-eyed, notices something none of the others saw. Something stamped into the underside of the chassis. Something half-hidden under grime and frost. Sir, look at this. Malke steps closer. Fritz wipes away the filth with his sleeve. A number emerges, a date, a manufacturing code. Malke leans in. His eyes go wide. This jeep, he whispers. It's only 8 months old. Henke blinks. That means it crossed an ocean, traveled across half of Russia, survived combat, carried troops under fire, and still runs. Malke nods slowly. It was built last summer, and they've made tens of thousands more since then. The men stare at the marking, faded, stamped, impersonal. A signature of a machine that should not exist in such numbers. A machine that tells the real story. America isn't fighting the war year by year. America is fighting month by month, machine by machine, ship by ship, factory by factory. And Germany is running out of time. Malke closes his eyes for a moment, gathering resolve. We leave, he says finally. But remember what you saw today. Another artillery blast hits closer, so close it rattles the bolts on the jeep frame. They run for the trucks. Snow kicks up under their boots. Engines roar. The convoy lurches forward. But as they pull away from the depot, Fritz looks back one last time, eyes fixed on the shattered courtyard, the 2 jeeps, and the truth they revealed. He speaks quietly to himself, but loud enough for Henke to hear. If they can build 640,000 of these, how do we stop them? Henke doesn't answer. Because he can't. Snow whips across the retreating convoy. the wind carrying the distant thunder of Soviet tanks grinding westward. The trucks bounce along the frozen road, shocks squealing in protest. Inside the lead vehicle, Marquet sits rigid, his jaw clenched, the captured jeep parts stacked beside him like silent witnesses. The cabin smells of oil, cold leather, and fear. Outside, the world is dissolving. Villages abandoned, fields scarred, telephone poles leaning like broken matchsticks. It's the kind of landscape that tells you a country is running out of breath. Henke sits across from him, arms wrapped tight against the cold. Fritz, pale but alert, watches the horizon through a tear in the canvas. Every now and then, artillery flares illuminate his face white, then orange, then gone. Minutes pass in tense silence. Finally, Henke speaks. "Sir, what do we tell them? The officers, the engineers, what do we say?" Malke doesn't answer immediately. He knows why the question matters. He knows what he should say. But he also knows what will happen next. "They won't believe us," he says quietly. "Not really. They'll think it's an exaggeration. Or an excuse." Henke looks away. "Because that's been the story of the war for months now. Facts ignored. Warnings dismissed. Reality minimized until it crashed through the front lines like a steel avalanche." Fritz shifts forward. "But they have to listen now," he insists. "If they see the parts, if they understand, maybe they'll change strategy." "Maybe they won't," Malke interrupts, not angrily, not cynically, just honestly. "Our leadership still believes the war can be won with brilliance," he says. "But brilliance doesn't matter when the enemy is building an entire army every month." The engine growls beneath their boots. The road dips. The truck lurches. Fritz grabs a crate to steady himself. "What about the V-weapons?" he presses. "What about the new tanks? The new engines?" Mahalke looks at him with a kind of sad respect. "None of it matters when the Americans can replace losses faster than we can design prototypes." The words hit like a slap. The truth is brutal, but unavoidable. The war is no longer a contest of strategy. It's a contest of endurance, and only one side has the strength left to endure. A sudden whistle cuts through the air. "Incoming down," Henke shouts. The entire truck slams sideways as a shell explodes in the tree line. Snow and mud blast through the canvas. The truck skids, fishtails, barely recovers. The convoy driver yells something unintelligible over the engine roar. Another explosion, closer this time. Fritz ducks low, hot hammering. Are they targeting us? Henke checks through a flap. No, they're firing blind, pushing us west. A long silence follows. The kind of silence that comes not from calm, but from exhaustion. Finally, Malke speaks again. "When we reach headquarters," he says, "we will show them everything. The spare drive shaft, the standardized assembly, the leaf springs, all of it. And if they ignore us," Fritz asks. Malke turns his gaze toward the dark horizon, toward the glow of distant burning cities. "Then history will not." The truck continues rattling down the icy road, but tension eases, just slightly. The three men share the quiet understanding of soldiers, who have finally seen the truth too clearly to deny it. Then the driver shouts, "Checkpoint ahead." A cluster of soldiers appears on the road, disorganized, frostbitten, exhausted. A shattered signpost leans in the snow, its lettering half-burned, Rückzugslinie, retreat line beyond it. The night glows with artillery flashes. Henke frowns. This wasn't supposed to be the retreat line. "We're too far west." Fritz looks sharply at him. "So the front is collapsing faster than command admits?" Henke doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. As the convoy slows, Malke notices something, a detail so small most men would miss it. But he sees it. A Sherman tank track print stamped into the muddy snow. Fresh, hours old at most, American armor here. This Far East. Impossible, unthinkable. Yet there it is. Malke steps out of the truck, boots sinking in the slush. He crouches, brushing snow from the deep tread mark. His breath fogs the cold air. Henke joins him. "Sir, is it theirs?" Malke nods slowly. "Their smallest machine explains their fastest advances." He gestures toward the tread. "And their biggest machines explain everything else." He stands, and as he does, a distant engine rumble echoes through the night. Not German, not Soviet, deep, steady, confident, a sound that confirms the truth they've been trying not to face. Fritz whispers, "Sir, is that?" Malke's eyes narrow toward the horizon. "Yes," he says, "it is. American armor far ahead of schedule, closer than intelligence claimed. A tide that no precision engineering can stop. And as that engine rumble grows louder, rolling across the frozen fields like the growl of an approaching storm, every man in the convoy realizes the jeep was not a fluke. It was a warning. A warning Germany is only now beginning to understand.